So the basic first rule of thumb to follow is ask yourself the question, what do I need to monitor or keep track of? Well, the easy answer is you need to monitor and keep track of everything. You need to monitor everything. A lot of organizations, they want to cut a corner here and say, well, I'm only going to monitor my critical assets, or I'm only going to monitor my mission essential assets. Well, what they're missing is there often are assets within the organization, assets in this sense being maybe another computer system or a piece of software or something like that, that can be used as a pivot point to get to a critical service or application or system, right? So that's why you need to monitor everything. Everything should be kept track of. These are the all important audit logs, to include system audit logs, application audit logs, security audit logs, and so forth, right? So you need to be able to monitor everything. Next, we need to build a system that can automatically detect every form of attack. So it used to be enough, for instance, to simply have an IDS, right, or an intrusion detection system. And I'm not saying that it is no longer sufficient to have just an intrusion detection system. But with the sophistication of attack as time evolves, the detection part becomes more important to give way to the protection part, right? So moving more into an IPS type of device than an IDS type of device. Remember that detection is only going to show you what has happened. It's not going to show you, for instance, what is happening, right? So that's the passivity of an IDS. An intrusion detection system is simply going to tell you what has happened. The event occurred, and here is the record of that, right? So a DOS attack, brute force attack, malware, insider threats, it's only going to show you that something did occur. And we really want to start moving into a more offensive posture and investing in devices that are more capable of not only detecting that something has happened, but then to be able to move into a posture to prevent it from keeping happening, right? The desire here is to use a single appliance, right? To use just one. And too often, organizations try to split this between two different services or two different devices, right? Well, the first rule of engineering, if you will, is the more complex you make a system, the more likely it is to fail. So we want to guard against complexity. So having investing in the IPS, you're going to get the IDS capability, right? So you're getting two appliances in one, and it's under one hood, if you will. And that way, you can, if you are not ready, right, and you don't have, the organization doesn't have the maturity yet in the cybersecurity program to be able to actively use an IPS device, intrusion prevention or intrusion protection device, you can put an IPS in IDS mode, where it's just going to detect it. And then you mature into being able to first detect and then prevent, right, or protect the organization. Next, you need to improve the means of detecting attacks and avoiding false positives. This is probably where organizations get the most frustrated, simply because they invest this money, right? They invest these resources into this tool, and they expect the tool to just be able to plug it in, turn it on, and it just works. Well, that that is never going to happen, right? Because every environment is unique. Every environment is different, and IDSs need to be tuned, and IPSs need to be tuned to the environment to understand what right looks like in your environment. So at the beginning, and usually for about I generally tell organizations between 4 and 6 months, right? You are going to get a mountain of false positives because it doesn't know what to look for yet. However, uh, as it continues to burn in, you'll start eliminating those false positives, where you're only going to start getting notices or notifications on true positives, things that are actually issues you want to be notified of and then subsequently investigate, right? Uh, but it takes time and it takes tuning. Now, most of today's tools, uh, especially when you start, looking at, for instance, firewalls, maybe like an ASA or a Palo Alto firewall, they're going to come with a level of intelligent learning. Um, if you choose a device that we identify as a heuristic device. A heuristic device, or sometimes you'll hear it called an anomaly-based device. Once the application or once the appliance learns what normal is, it's going to alert you to anything that falls out of normal. This is, for instance, in the project that I'm dealing with now, this is where almost a third of my budget went to, is an appliance that will learn the environment, be able to create its own threat modeling, and react to what is then identified as abnormal. But like anything else, I have to make sure that my organization knows it's going to take time, about 6 months, to tune this to what is normal, right? Now, I have seen it take as long as a year to tune to what is normal, because there are some organizations, for instance, that go through these cyclical cycles of test events, or application development, or things like that, that happen every year, but you might not capture in that first year, or I'm sorry, in that first 6 months. So it might take a year to tune that type of device to recognize what is normal, and that's okay, right? You're not doing this to capture today. You're doing it to capture tomorrow. So if it takes a year to tune it properly, then fine. Um, it's a time investment, right? A resource investment that is just kind of required in this arena. But it's important that you advise the decision makers, the stakeholders, in most cases the executives, not to expect immediate result, but be able to show them at what point their return on security investment is expected to pay off.